Hey guys, I wanted to make a video about some niche tricks for Mage in general, but specifically Arcane Mage that, you know, they're not like super secret, but I think it's one of those things where if you're not like told about them at any point, you just might not know about them, especially if you've not been playing Mage for a very long time. So I wanted to compile them to one video, and so here we go. The very first trick that I want to show is the Ice Floes bug. There's a positive and a negative bug. The positive is one that's really nice, and the negative is obviously one that's bad. To show you the negative bug, first of all, let me demonstrate with a touch of the Magi. Let's just play up a Nether Tempest, and then I start casting Ice Floes. Oh, what's going on? I cannot cast, right? Problem. The bug is that Arcane Echo triggers Ice Floes, which means that you can basically never use it, right? Not very good. The positive bug, let me recharge some charges over here, is that you can actually recast Ice Floes before your cast finishes, and it actually won't consume the previous stack. This means that you can actually get up to 5 charges with just, or like 5 uses with just 3 charges, or you can get 3 uses out of just 2 charges. So if I show you an example here, let's say Ice Floes and I'm moving, and then I reapply it, see now I have 2, and then I reapply it again, I still have 3 now, so on, The key is you just need to reapply Ice Floes before your current cast ends. The reason this bug works specifically is because of this like very weird situation where, for example, if you like press Ice Floes near the end of a cast and start moving, it won't consume it. Because, obviously you just press it at the very end of the cast. Why would it consume it? It would be very annoying if it did. So to counteract that issue, Blizzard made it that, if you cast it at the end of cast, it won't consume the charge. But we can abuse it like I just showed you. The other trick I want to show is the, what I call the Phantom Arcane Missiles. So I'm actually going to switch here to show you a video that I pre-recorded, so I don't have to sit there waiting. In this video, what I have is a missiles clear casting proc while I'm already casting a missiles. Let me rewind that. So the trick is, if you have a clear casting missile and for some reason you want to chain it after the initial missile, if you clip it right before the penultimate tick, or before the last tick, you can actually create a phantom missile. So to demonstrate this, what I'm doing is I'm playing Harmony, so you can keep track of missile ticks with Harmony stacks. The expected amount should be 5 from the regular missile, and then 8 from the clear casting, meaning 13. If we successfully duplicate this bug, or replicate it, we should get 14 stacks, 1 extra, right? 14 instead of 13. So let me play this. So if you see here, right about now, I cast my new missiles, and then you're going to see it goes to 14. I'll replay that one more time and just pause it right before. Oh, I didn't pause it right before. I paused it a little too late. And once again. For me, with my cast bar, it's roughly around when this M hits, right? You might have to fiddle around with it with your cast bar. Dorovin's cast bar weak aura, which is on the Mage Discord, I believe, is also very good. I'm actually planning to switch to that cast bar instead, just because, frankly, it looks nicer than mine. I just want to try something new. But yeah, I do recommend that cast bar. But yeah, the idea is just clip it right before, and you'll get this extra tick. Be very careful with this bug, and you'll need to practice it, because if you do it too early, you're actually going to lose 2 ticks. And if you do it too late, you just won't get the tick. So make sure you get this bug right. Might take some practice, figure out how it works with your ping and stuff. Very minor, but it's a small little trick that can eke out a little bit of extra damage. Let me switch back. Okay. Another tech that is not very known but is insanely useful is when you read this talent here, great invisibility, increase your movement speed by 32% for 6 seconds. Great, so when you invis, you have a bit more movement speed. Fantastic. What is unknown is that we still have regular invisibility. It's still a spell. And regular invis is actually much stronger of a movement speed. If you hover over it, actually tells you it's 80%, and that is what it is. As you can tell, when you invis, you are super fast. And you can remove your invis and it'll still stay, So oftentimes when you don't want to, or you're running out of charges or of shimmer or blink or whatever, and you want to run a little bit faster, if you want to cover more distance with your Ice Floes as well, For example, you can like invis and then start casting with Ice Floes. It's a 1 extra GCD commitment, but if it gets you like further than you need to go, it's great. Let's say you want to like, surge on the move and drop a new rune, like great, I covered from that distance to this distance. If I had invis, I probably could have gone further, so you can kind of control where your rune drops a little better, which is one of the techniques I really love about Ice Floes. The next trick is not really a trick, but it's more like just some information. So I'll apply Nether Tempest here. Actually, let me apply it on 4 charges just to be scientific about it. As you can see, there are still some missiles that fire a little bit after. Those count for Arcane Echo, so make sure to take advantage of those. That's why I tell people to like Nether Tempest before Surge. It gives you an extra global cooldown. Yeah, it's good. If you want to know the DPS value, most of it is to do with Arcane Echo. So as long as you're not losing Arcane Echo ticks, then you're fine. If you're in my Discord, there's a pin in the general discussion that showcases like an experiment I did with all the different situations in Nether Tempest that just show the different Arcane Echo ticks. Obviously scales with haste, so it might vary a little bit, but the variability is going to be constant. So moving on, the next bug that I want to show is the Nether Precision bug with concentration. The trick is, or like the knowledge to have, is that when you have concentration, which is this talent over here, Arcane Blast has a chance to grant concentration, cause your next clear casting not to be consumed. The weird interaction is that Nether Precision means that consuming clear casting increases the damage of your next Arcane Blasts. What this means is that when you have concentration and you cast Arcane Missiles, you do not actually get the stacks. To show this, I have another video once again. This time I have concentration already procced. As you can see, I'm gonna missile. Just showing you my talents a little bit here. I'm gonna missile, and you can notice that I don't get any Nether Precision procs. I'm gonna regular missile afterwards just to showcase the procs, what it looks like. See? You can also track it in the buffs, obviously. But yeah, that's a little bug or weird interaction, however you want to call it. The next thing that I want to talk about is a topic of discussion that a lot of people have mentioned. It's about the Radiant Spark. Well, actually, before I go on to that, I should note mirror image as well. A lot of people don't value how strong this personal is. It's 20% damage reduction, and basically every time you take direct damage, an image dissipates, meaning that you have 3 charges essentially of taking 20% reduced damage. But it only dissipates if you take direct damage. The vast majority of raid fights and their abilities are not direct damage. Most often than not, mirror image is actually a 20% damage reduction for 40 seconds. In M+, this might not be as true, but in raid specifically, it's very, very, very strong. Very few things deal direct damage in raid. Very few things. So, don't lose value of that. But yeah, the next trick I want to show you is with Radiant Spark. So, if you get to like 4 Radiant Sparks, if you cast an Arcane Blast into a Barrage here at the end, both spells will actually benefit from the Radiant Spark. And you have to like queue them up, we say. As in like, make sure the Arcane Barrage goes off the millisecond, like not even a millisecond gap between the two spells. Obviously the game helps you with spell queuing in that regard, but as long as you're spell queuing, both will benefit from the Radiant Spark, 40% damage buff. The second spell will not benefit from Harmonic Echo, but most often than not, Radiant Spark on single target is more valuable than Harmonic Echo for your barrages, so most often than not, you will want to queue. If you're playing Harmony, you only want to queue during Lust. And if you're playing Mana Gem, you can queue during Lust, you can queue during the regular time. It's about damage neutral whether you actually queue or not, if you're playing how the APL suggests. So, it's up to you. But it's a little bit of a nice extra information. The other tip that I want to show with this is specifically for a fight like Senarth or Teros. So if I go max range here, let me just check I have Temporal Warp. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to 4 Radiant Spark, then I'm going to Barrage, Touch, Arcane Blast with double Lust, and I'll show you what happens. So I'm going to double Lust, Radiant Spark, Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to Barrage, Touch, Arcane Blast. The important thing here, and the reason this is an interesting one, is because the speed of Arcane Blast is faster than the Arcane Barrage travel time, which means that I actually get to use the 4th Radiant Spark once again for both abilities, and I consume Harmonic Echo with Arcane Blast. You might ask yourself, why is this useful? And why is it different than the thing you just talked about? The main thing is, with this combination, compared to queuing Blast, Barrage, and then Touch, is that my Arcane Blast here damage is feeding into the Touch of the Magi. Now granted, like I'm doing a no precision, no nether precision Arcane Blast, so you might say, oh well, later on in Touch of the Magi you might get more, but obviously Radiant Spark with 40% is more valuable, especially with Harmonic Echo, than a nether precision Arcane Blast later on. The other thing also is, on fights like Senarth and Teros, landing your Barrage in Harmonic Echo window, which is the Radiant Spark vulnerability window, is oftentimes not really possible unless you're really right next to the boss, which most of the time you're not. So in that case, your last Radiant Spark's Harmonic Echo is oftentimes wasted. Doing this technique lets you actually get that little bit of extra damage. So it's a very strong technique for those two fights specifically. To replicate this, you probably need like double lust, and you need to be like pretty far away from the boss. It's not as bad for Senarth. You can usually do it more often than not on Senarth, but on Teros you usually need to be further back and have double lust. You'll have to experiment with your travel times, maybe go into LFR and figure it out, because it does depend on your haste. I'm not going to give you a number or anything like that, because there might be misinformation. But yeah, try it out with your haste, maybe in an LFR normal, check the logs and figure it out. But if you want to be safe, just do it in double lust. It's completely guaranteed in double lust on those two fights. But yeah, other than that, you might have to fiddle around with it a little bit. And then the last point that I want to bring up is the Barrage FakeQueue Korra. So if you recall the thing I just talked about, right, where you like Radiant Spark and then you Arcane Blast Barrage, and how both of them benefited from the same one, it's because we queued them up. So an astute listener might say, hey, well, what if I'm on 2 stacks or 3 stacks and I'm, let's say, casting Surge into Barrage? Will my Barrage get the 4th one or the 3rd one, right? Because if I'm on 3 stacks, I'm casting Surge and then I'm going to Barrage right after and I queue it up. Will my Barrage get the damage buff from number 4 Radiant Spark or number 3 Radiant Spark? The answer is, if you don't have the weak aura, it will get number 3. If you have the weak aura, it will get number 4. The reason is because when you queue up a spell, it basically counts it as the previous spell in Radiant Spark. So to combat this, we use a weak aura called FakeQueue or Arcane Barrage FakeQueue. I'll link it in the description below. Let me just find it here. I'm not gonna like read the code in front of you guys, but essentially what it says is, if you have Radiant Spark at 3 or more stacks, I think it's under actions. Yeah, if you have Radiant Spark at less than 4 stacks, then it will trigger. If you have Radiant Spark at 4 stacks, it will not trigger. When triggering, what triggering does is it like basically runs a script, or it allows you to run a script. And the script is this. I'll also post this in the description. It's a macro for your barrage that you have to make and put it as your main barrage macro. You can see I already have that done. What it will do is, when you're in that situation where the fake Q will actually improve your damage, it will trigger, create a very short lag window, like I'll show you here. I'll just do one Arcane Blast for the hell of it. See that like very tiny, very minuscule lag window? You might not even have noticed it if I didn't mention it. That's what the weak aura does, and it ensures that I get that extra 10% damage on my barrage. If you have the weak aura, and it is not the condition where the weak aura would trigger, so Radiant Spark stacks under 4, then the weak aura and macro will do absolutely nothing at all, which is good because we do not randomly want to start lagging, right? I can promise this, you do not have gain anything negative, or I should say you do not lose anything, or there is no negative downside. It's a lot of tautology there. There's no negative, sorry, for downloading the weak aura and the macro at all. At all. So I really highly recommend you download it because it might help your damage out a little bit. Make sure you get the weak aura and the macro, and make sure the macro is your main barrage button. Those are 2 required conditions. But yeah, the weak aura and the macro are very nice. I've been using it. It was a thing for fire since like Sanctum of Domination. I've been using it since then. Yeah, I've had no problems with it. I've read the code. I've checked it out multiple times. Ran like tests with it. It's completely fine. It's completely safe. It's not bannable. Nothing like that. But yeah, those are the most important tricks that I wanted to show. If you have any other tricks that I maybe have not mentioned, feel free to post them in the comments. If something specifically you liked or did not like about the video, let me know. And if you haven't already joined the Discord, please do join the Discord. I'm very, very active. I post a lot of stuff in there. I answer a lot of questions. I even look at some blogs for some people who are struggling damage really quickly. Obviously not like a whole coaching session. Those are like, paid services. But yeah. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.